Wind, needles, darkness, the kind of cold that doesn't just touch your skin, it enters you, it bites your bones, it makes every breath feel borrowed. And on the coldest night Iron Ridge had seen in 20 years, 12-year-old Eli Carter stood behind an abandoned grocery store with a torn blanket over one shoulder, an empty stomach, and a choice no kid should ever have to make. Walk away or stop. Because under the broken yellow streetlight, half buried in wind-blown snow, a woman in a black leather jacket lay motionless beside a fallen motorcycle. And by morning, they would know his name. Eli froze where he stood, his shoes soaked through, icy water seeping around his toes. The alley smelled like wet cardboard, diesel from the main road, and old garbage frozen into place. Somewhere far off, a dog barked. A loose sign clanged against a rusted pole. The wind hissed through the cinder blocks like it was whispering, "Keep moving, kid." He should have listened. That was Rule 1 on the street, don't get involved. Rule 2, don't touch what belongs to dangerous people. And the woman in the snow belonged to danger. Even Eli knew the patch on her jacket. The winged skull. The kind of symbol grown men noticed and then suddenly found somewhere else to be. In Iron Ridge, people minded their business when leather and engines were involved. A pickup truck rolled past the alley mouth. Its headlights swept over the woman for half a second, then kept going. Eli swallowed hard. "Hey," he said, voice small in the storm. "Miss?" No answer. He stepped closer. Snow crunched under his thin soles. The chrome of the motorcycle was glazed white with frost. One mirror was cracked. The engine had long gone cold. The woman's cheek was nearly blue under the streetlight, and her body was twisted wrong enough to make Eli's stomach tighten. He had seen drunks before, seen overdoses, seen men sleep in snowbanks and never stand up again. This felt worse. He crouched and touched her wrist. He flinched. She was so cold it shocked him. Not just cold, wrong cold, the kind that made his chest panic before his mind caught up. Another gust tore through the alley, carrying the smell of snow and motor oil. Eli looked back toward the road. Cars passed in the distance with that soft, slushy whisper tires make on frozen asphalt. No one turned in. No one slowed down. No one was coming. And in that moment, the truth landed on him like a slab of ice. If he left, she would die. Simple as that. He stared at her jacket again, at the patch, at the trouble stitched into it. Trouble had ruined people for less. Helping strangers got you robbed. Helping the wrong strangers got you disappeared. Then he looked at her face and saw something he knew too well. Being left. Being unseen. The world deciding you were not worth the inconvenience. "Okay," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "Okay. I got you." He hooked both hands under her arms and pulled. Nothing. She was too heavy. Not just heavy like a person, heavy like a life. Boots, leather, soaked denim, dead weight. Eli slipped, caught himself, gritted his teeth, and pulled again. His arms burned, his breath came fast and white. Snow shoved into his sleeves. His fingers went numb. He dragged her one foot, then another. He stopped, panting so hard it hurt. The alley was only 30 yards away. 30 yards to the pallet wall and flattened boxes he called a shelter. 30 yards might as well have been a mile. But by morning, they would know his name. So he pulled again. Each scrape across the ice sounded too loud. His shoulder screamed. His stomach cramped from hunger. Once, her boot caught on broken pavement and he nearly fell backward. He glanced up every few seconds, sure somebody would appear and yell, accuse, threaten. No one did. Iron Ridge stayed what it always was at night. Shut windows, drawn curtains. Everybody safe inside, pretending not to hear suffering outside. 20 minutes later, Eli finally got her into the narrow cut between the grocery store and the loading dock. His shelter crouched there in shadow, pallets stacked against brick, flattened cardboard layered on the ground, an old tarp tied above like a crooked ceiling. It smelled like damp paper, mildew, and the faint sweet scent of a bakery that used to dump stale rolls nearby before it closed for good. His legs trembled as he lowered her down. She wasn't shivering. That scared him more than anything. He threw his blanket over her first, then his own threadbare coat. Still nothing. No, he rubbed her arms, her hands, her shoulders. He had no phone, no gloves, no fire, no adult, just a body that barely kept itself warm. Then he made the kind of decision people call brave only after it works. He lay down beside her, wrapped his arms around her, pressed his chest to her frozen jacket and gave her the only heat he had left. The brick behind them radiated cold. The wind found every opening in the tarp. Eli's teeth chattered so hard he bit his tongue. He tasted blood. He could hear her breathing faint, uneven, there and then, almost not there. "Don't die, okay?" he whispered into the dark. "I'm not good at that stuff." The wind answered with a low moan through the alley. And sometime before dawn, still holding a stranger the world had already abandoned, Eli's eyes drifted shut. He never heard the first distant rumble, not thunder, engines. When Raven opened her eyes, pain arrived first, sharp in her ribs, dull in her shoulder, fire in her hip, then cold, then something stranger, warmth, not enough, not safe, but real. She blinked up at a sagging blue tarp, gray winter light leaking through a torn corner. Her nose filled with the smell of wet cardboard, brick dust, and a faint trace of cheap soap from somewhere close, someone who had tried to stay clean even when the world kept throwing mud. That was when she felt the arms around her, small arms, thin arms. She turned her head and saw him, a boy, maybe 12, hollow cheeks, chapped lips, tangled brown hair crushed flat on one side. He was curled against her like a human furnace built from pure stubbornness. Even asleep, his hands were locked in the fabric of her jacket as if letting go might let death back in. Raven stared. Nobody did this. Not for her. Not for someone wearing her colors. The boy jerked awake the second she moved. His eyes went wide. Fear first, then relief. "You're awake," he blurted, scrambling backward but not too far, like he still didn't trust the world to keep her breathing without supervision. His voice was cracked from cold. Raven pushed herself up halfway and regretted it instantly. Pain shot through her side so hard she hissed. "How long?" she rasped. He shrugged, rubbing his hands together. "All night, I think. All night." Raven looked at him again, really looked. His sweater had holes at both elbows. One sock didn't match. His fingernails were blue at the edges. His blanket, if you could even call that rag a blanket, was draped over her, not him. She followed his gaze to the patch on her jacket. "You know what that means?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "And? People are scared of you. Not accusation, not judgment, just fact." Raven let out a breath that almost became a laugh. Iron Ridge in one sentence. "And you're not?" The boy looked down, shrugged. "I've seen worse." That one landed somewhere deep. Because kids weren't supposed to say things like that calmly. Kids were supposed to still believe the world would choose them if they were good enough. This one talked like somebody who had already taken the full tour and stopped expecting anything. "What's your name?" Raven asked. He hesitated. "Eli." "Like names cost money." "I'm Raven." He nodded once. Took it in. No reaction to the name, no visible fear, no recognition, which somehow made the moment feel even cleaner. Outside, town noises were waking up. A delivery truck downshifting, a metal shutter banging open. The rattle of shopping carts from the discount store 2 blocks over. Life starting. Not one piece of it looking into this alley. Raven reached inside her jacket slowly and found her phone. Cracked screen, almost dead battery, still working, a miracle. Her thumb hovered over one contact. Calling meant something. Not because they wouldn't come, they would. Because they would come loud. And once they came, this boy's life would stop being invisible forever. She glanced at Eli. He was pretending not to shiver, pretending not to watch her hands, pretending this was normal. It wasn't. Raven hit call. The line picked up on the first ring. "Rav, I'm alive." Silence. "Old grocery in Iron Ridge," she said, behind it. Then she ended the call. Eli tilted his head. "Your family?" Raven smirked, but he was tired. Something like that. He looked toward the alley entrance. "How many people?" That made her actually smile. "Enough!" At that exact moment, a voice cut in from the other side of the loading dock. "Eli?" Both of them turned. A small woman in a purple knit hat hurried into view carrying a plastic grocery bag and a silver thermos. She was in her 60s, round-faced, quick-eyed, and moving with the determined speed of someone who had spent a lifetime keeping everybody else alive. Mrs. Alvarez. She ran the laundromat on Birch and sometimes slipped Eli soup without making him feel like Charity, his lovable side character. His one soft place. "Oh, thank God," she breathed, then saw Raven, the bike, the patch, and stopped dead. "Oh, absolutely not. Mrs. Alvarez, she was hurt. I can see she was hurt." Her eyes flicked to the colors on Raven's jacket, then back to Eli. And I can also see trouble with zippers. Raven leaned her head back against Brick, amused despite the pain. Mrs. Alvarez handed Eli the thermos. Drink. I'm fine. That was not a request. He drank. Steam hit his face. Chicken broth. Pepper. Garlic. It smelled like life. Eli nearly cried from the heat alone. Mrs. Alvarez then looked at Raven. You need a hospital, Raven said. Not an option. It becomes an option when you're bleeding internally. Raven's jaw tightened. Still no, Mrs. Alvarez. Alvarez stared at her for one long second, then muttered something in Spanish that definitely wasn't a blessing. For a moment, Eli felt hope. Mrs. Alvarez always knew what to do. She fixed broken buttons, fevers, nosebleeds, teacher letters, bad dreams. Maybe she would fix this too. Instead, she crouched in front of him and grabbed both his shoulders. You need to leave, she said quietly. Eli blinked. What? Right now. Before whoever she called gets here. His chest dropped. She'll die. She might, Mrs. Alvarez said, painful honesty in her eyes. But if men like that arrive and find you here, I may not be able to protect you. Protect you. The words should have felt loving. They felt like abandonment. Raven watched silently. Eli stood up. I'm not leaving. Eli. No. His voice cracked, then hardened. Everybody leaves. Everybody. I'm not doing it too. Mrs. Alvarez opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes shone for half a second. And then, from somewhere beyond Main Street, low and deep and growing by the second, came the sound that made all three of them go still. Engines. Raven exhaled once. They're early. By morning, they would know his name. But first, Iron Ridge would have to face its own reflection. The first bikes entered Iron Ridge like weather. Not fast, not wild, certain. A rolling wall of chrome and black leather, headlights cutting pale winter mist into strips. The sound bounced off storefront glass and church stone and the shuttered diner windows until the whole town seemed to vibrate from the inside out. People stepped onto porches in bathrobes. Cashiers abandoned registers. Curtains twitched all over Main. And Eli Small, hungry and still clutching Mrs. Alvarez's thermos, just stared. The air smelled suddenly different. Exhaust. Hot metal. Road salt. Snowmelt lifting off mufflers and ghostly steam. The quiet town he knew had been replaced by something alive and enormous. Stay behind me, Mrs. Alvarez. Alvarez snapped. Raven, still pale, pushed herself to her feet against the wall. One rider peeled off early and cut through the back lot instead of joining the others. His bike snarled to a stop near the loading dock. He was broad-shouldered, gray-bearded, and wore his leather-like armor grown into skin. But it was his eyes that mattered. Sharp, assessing, old enough to have buried people. He looked at Raven first, then at Eli, then the blanket over Raven's shoulders, then Eli again. This was Bishop. And trouble had just learned the boy's face. Rav, he said, dismounting. Relief flashed across his expression and vanished. You call, we move, I noticed. His gaze slid to Eli. This him? Raven nodded once. He kept me alive. Bishop studied the boy for a long moment. The kind of stare that measured more than height. Then he stepped closer and held out one gloved hand. Eli didn't take it. Mrs. Alvarez inhaled sharply. Bishop's mouth twitched. Good, he said. Kids got instincts. Raven almost smiled. Then another voice cut through. Well. Iron Ridge's little ghost got himself important. Derek Sloan leaned against the alley entrance with two other men from the scrapyard. Mid-30s, expensive boots pretending to be work boots, a grin that always came with a trap behind it. He had offered Eli jobs before. Carry this. Watch that door. Don't ask what's in the bag. Derek represented the old identity waiting to swallow him whole. The voice that said survival is the same thing as becoming hard. Temptation with cigarettes on his breath. Eli stiffened. Derek nodded toward the bikes gathering out front. Told you one day knowing the right criminals would pay better than honesty. Mrs. Alvarez bristled. Go home, Derek. Derek ignored her. Listen, kid. These people, they'll pat your head today and vanish tomorrow. Men like me, we can use a boy who doesn't scare easy. Warm bed. Cash. Food. He spread his hands. Family. Raven's expression went flat. Bishop took one step forward and the whole alley changed temperature. But Derek wasn't done. What, he owes you now because he played heater for a biker in a ditch? Eli's ears rang. Because part of him that hurt, starved, furious part, wanted to believe Derek. Quick money, a place inside, rules you could learn, identity through fear. That path had a brutal logic. It would be so easy. And then Mrs. Alvarez made a sound, not loud. Pain. Everyone turned. She had gripped the wall with one hand and her chest with the other, face drained white under her knit cap. The grocery bag hit the ground. Oranges rolled across dirty snow. Mrs. A? Eli moved first. Caregiving chaos hits different when it's the only person who ever showed up for you. He caught her before she fell, lowering her to the cardboard. The thermos spilled, broth soaking into slush. Her breaths came short and wrong. Panicked. Fast. Bishop, call an ambulance, Raven ordered. Mrs. Alvarez grabbed Eli's wrist hard. No hospital bill, she gasped. Are you kidding? Raven snapped. She means she can't pay, Eli said, voice thin with fear. That sentence hung there like a condemnation. Derek backed up a step, suddenly uninterested. Not my problem. And there it was. The old identity in one line. Not my problem. Eli looked from Mrs. Days. Alvarez to Derek to Raven to Bishop. One road, then another. By morning, they would know his name. But right now, Eli needed Mrs. Alvarez alive. Bishop was already on the phone, barking the address. One of the riders sprinted to the front to flag down EMS. Raven knelt despite her injuries and took off her own jacket to cushion Mrs. Alvarez's head. Eli held her hand and kept talking because silence felt like death. Hey, you still owe me flan, remember? You said Sunday. Her eyes fluttered. I said, maybe. Yeah, well, I'm cashing in. She managed half a smile. As Raven shifted, something slipped from inside her jacket and landed near Eli's knee. A photograph. Bent, old, water-stained at one corner. Eli picked it up. It showed a much younger Raven sitting on a motorcycle, smiling wide in summer sunlight. Beside her stood a little girl, maybe 6, holding a paper pinwheel and laughing into the wind. On the back, in blue ink faded but still readable, were 4 words, for Lily. Come home safe. Eli looked up. Raven saw the photo in his hand and something shuddered in her face. Something private, important, wounded. Truth breadcrumb. There was a child in this story, or had been. The ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Derek slipped away. Bishop noticed, said nothing. Yet, as paramedics rushed in, one of them recognized Eli. Kid, you her son. Eli opened his mouth. Mrs. Alvarez, barely conscious, whispered, he should have been somebody's. The paramedic paused. Raven looked at Eli, and something unspoken passed between them. Not ownership, not pity, not rescue, recognition. The kind that changes everything. As the medics loaded Mrs. Alvarez up, she grabbed Eli's sleeve. Don't disappear, she whispered. I won't. Then the ambulance door shut. The siren rose. And outside, the number of bikes kept growing. The town thought it was about to witness intimidation. It had no idea it was about to witness judgment. By noon, Iron Ridge was ringed in motorcycles. Main Street, side streets, church lot, bank curb, even the snowpacked shoulder near the water tower. Hundreds had become thousands. The air trembled with idling engines, and every storefront window reflected leather, chrome, and faces that looked carved from winter itself. Reporters from 2 nearby counties showed up after the first videos hit social media. Somebody at the gas station whispered there were 4,000 riders in town. Nobody could prove it. Nobody dared question it either. Eli stood just behind Raven near the courthouse steps, wearing a borrowed knit cap and one of Bishop's extra flannels. Mrs. Alvarez was stable, a county general. Raven had already arranged for every cent of her bill to disappear. Eli didn't understand how. Bishop said, some debts don't get to exist. The crowd around town square smelled like cold wool, coffee, gasoline, and fear. Iron Ridge's kind of fear was different from Eli's. Not survival fear. Reputation fear. Optics fear. The fear of being seen clearly. Raven, bruised and hurting, stepped forward. Bishop stood at her left. A dozen riders formed a loose line behind them. No threats. No weapons out. Just presence. And then the mayor came bustling down the steps, scarf flapping, smile stretched too wide. Let's all stay calm, he said to no one and everyone. This town supports peaceful gatherings. Raven cut him off. Peaceful would have been somebody stopping last night. Silence. Sharp. Even the cameras seemed to lean in. She turned, pointed toward the alley behind the old grocery. I was down in the snow for who knows how long. Bike wrecked, body shutting down, cars passed, people saw, nobody stopped, nobody argued, because everybody knew it was possible. Everybody knew it sounded exactly like them. Then Raven placed her hand on Eli's shoulder and moved him gently forward. The square shifted. Some recognized him. The homeless boy near Birch. The one outside the bakery vent in winter. The boy people gave leftover fries without eye contact. This child, Raven said, voice carrying clear in the frozen air, did what your whole town would not. Eli wanted to disappear. Every eye on him felt hot, even in the cold. He could hear camera shutters, hear a baby crying somewhere, hear the flagpole cable ticking in the wind. By morning, they would know his name. Now it felt terrifying. Raven continued. He dragged me out of the snow, gave me his blanket, gave me his coat, stayed awake holding me so I wouldn't freeze. A murmur moved through the crowd. A woman covered her mouth. An older man looked at the ground. The mayor started to say something about community resources, and Bishop stepped forward with paperwork. That got everyone's attention. We asked around while riding in, he said. Turns out this town has had complaints filed for months about the old grocery lot, about minors sleeping outside, about harassment, about missing shelter funds. He handed a packet to one of the reporters. Turns out people talk when 4,000 bikes idle outside City Hall. Now the fear changed shape. The mayor's face drained. Derek Sloan, who had been lurking near the hardware store, took one step back. Then another. Too late. Bishop's gaze found him like a spotlight. You, Bishop said. The whole square turned. Derek forced a laugh. I didn't do anything. A rider from the back called out, Scrapyard cameras say different. Another held up printed stills. Derek shoving Eli away from a dumpster. Derek dumping a trash bag over the alley entrance. Derek taking donated blankets from a church bin and loading them into his truck. Humiliation loop. Worse. The town gasped. Not because Derek was cruel. They suspected that. Because evidence had arrived in broad daylight with witnesses too large to ignore. Eli stared. Raven leaned close enough for only him to hear. Old wolves always tell pups they're powerless. It keeps the pups obedient. Derek tried again. He's a street kid. He lies. No, Mrs. Alvarez's voice cracked across the square from a wheelchair at the edge of the crowd. Every head turned. She had checked herself out against instructions and come straight from the hospital wrapped in 2 blankets in pure fury. And beside her stood 3 laundromat regulars, a church deacon, and the mail carrier. Hope Ally returns, this time for real. Mrs. Alvarez pointed a shaking finger at Derek. He doesn't lie, he survives. The rest of you lie to yourselves. The line hit like a hammer. One by one, others stepped forward. The bakery clerk, a crossing guard, a teacher, not enough before, brave now, messy, guilty, human. They told the truth about seeing Eli, about ignoring him, about assuming somebody else would handle it, about knowing Derek preyed on vulnerable kids and choosing convenience over confrontation. Layered payoffs. Not just one villain, a whole culture of looking away. Raven reached into a saddlebag and withdrew something small. The photograph. She showed the crowd the back first. For Lily. Come home safe. My daughter died 11 years ago, she said, and for the first time her voice roughened. Not because nobody loved her. Because one drunk driver ran and 3 witnesses didn't want to get involved. She looked down at Eli. Last night this boy broke that chain. The square went dead still. Raven turned the photo over and handed it to Eli. Lily was about your age in that picture, she said softly. You saved someone nobody thought was worth saving. That matters more than you know. Eli's fingers trembled around the photo. He had spent years believing he was what happened after people stopped choosing you. Now thousands of riders and a whole town stood there while the truth rearranged itself in public. And then Bishop nodded once. That was the signal. One rider began to clap, slow, deliberate. Another joined. Then 10. Then 100. Then what felt like all 4,000. Not chaotic, not mocking. Honor. A thunder of respect rolling through Iron Ridge until windows shook and grown men lowered their eyes because they knew they were hearing judgment wrapped in gratitude. And Eli, homeless no longer in the way that mattered most, stood in the center of it. Seen. The applause lasted long enough to become something else. not noise. Witness. Eli had never heard sound hold him up before. It moved through the square like warmth through frozen hands, wave after wave of gloved palms and engine rumble and boots shifting on salted pavement. The sky above Iron Ridge was the pale silver of late afternoon, and a weak winter sun bounced off chrome so brightly it made the town look transformed. Less sleepy, less hidden, less able to pretend. Raven crouched carefully despite the pain in her ribs and held out a small leather vest. It was black, child-sized, new enough that the leather still had that rich, clean smell underneath the road and cold. On the back, in bold stitching, were 2 words, Guardian Angel. Eli just stared. You don't have to earn being human, Raven said quietly, but sometimes the world needs reminding. This is ours. She slipped the vest over his shoulders. It fit better than anything he had ever owned, not because of the size, because it felt chosen. The leather was cool at first, then slowly warmed against him. He ran his fingers over the stitching again and again, as if it might disappear. Around them, riders stepped forward one by one. A woman with a silver braid handed him a backpack packed with socks, gloves, soap, and notebooks. A medic gave him a proper winter coat. Someone else gave him boots. Another rider pressed a folded envelope into Bishop's hand for Eli. No speech. No spectacle. Just action. The smell of coffee drifted from somewhere in the crowd. Someone had opened boxes of donuts. A church volunteer arrived with chili in giant insulated tubs. Mrs. Alvarez, still in her wheelchair, was already directing distribution like a battlefield commander. Cups first, feelings second, she barked, and 3 bikers twice her size obeyed instantly. Raven laughed under her breath. That laughter mattered. So did the chili. So did the boots. Layered payoffs are never only emotional. They become practical when the story means it. The mayor, publicly shamed and cornered by reporters, promised an emergency town meeting. The missing shelter funds were suddenly under review. Derek Sloan was escorted away after one of the county deputies confirmed the camera evidence and a list of outstanding warrants that had apparently become very easy to locate once the right people started asking. The old identity had offered Eli a bed for his silence. The new one offered dignity without purchase. That was the real victory. As daylight thinned, Raven sat with Eli on the courthouse steps while the town square slowly turned from spectacle into work. Riders helping unload cots. Church ladies making lists. A local contractor offering to winterize the unused parish house. Kids from the high school showing up with blankets after seeing the live stream. Shame had opened the door. Action was finally walking through it. Eli looked down at the photo of Lily. She looks nice, he said. She was loud, Raven replied. He smiled. That too. Raven's voice softened. You reminded me of her, not because you're the same, because when it mattered, you moved toward someone hurting instead of away. The wind had eased by then. You could hear tinny Christmas lights buzzing over Main Street, though it was already January and no one had bothered taking them down. The square smelled like chili, coffee, melted snow, and gasoline cooling in metal. It smelled, for once, like people staying. Eli swallowed. What happens now? Raven didn't answer right away, because now was the dangerous part. After the cheering, after the cameras, after the dramatic rescue, stories can go hollow there. People love moments. Systems require mornings. By morning, they would know his name. But would they remember it next week? Raven glanced at Mrs. Alvarez, now scolding a biker for under-seasoning the second chili pot. Then at Bishop, who was on the phone arranging something with a lawyer in the next county. Then at the church deacon, who was taking inventory like he'd been waiting years for courage to become contagious. Then she looked back at Eli. Now, she said, we make sure this wasn't just a beautiful day. We make it a beginning. That evening, under the glow of courthouse floodlights, Raven stood before the riders one last time and raised a hand. The engines kicked over in answer. Thousands of headlights came alive at once, washing the square in white and gold. She pointed, not at the town, at Eli. Every rider there revved once. The sound slammed into the winter sky so hard, birds lifted off the church roof in a dark burst. A promise. Not that his life would become easy, not that pain wouldn't visit again. But that invisibility had ended. Months later, people would still talk about the day 4,000 riders rolled into Iron Ridge for one homeless boy. They'd tell it like legend because legends are easier than confession. Easier than admitting the miracle wasn't the bikers. It was the child, the hungry, frozen, overlooked child who had nothing, no money, no shelter, no safety, and still found enough in himself to stop for another human being. That was the moral. Not leather, not spectacle, not fear. Mercy from the bottom is more powerful than comfort from the top. And in the final image of that winter day, Eli stood wrapped in a winter coat, a leather vest on his shoulders, Mrs. Alvarez at one side, Raven at the other, while the engines hummed low around them like a living heartbeat. The boy nobody saw had become the reason an entire town finally opened its eyes. Because sometimes history doesn't change when powerful people speak. Sometimes it changes when one ignored child, shaking in the snow, decides not to look away.